Yes, hello everybody, and welcome to Full Course Yellow, the In Pit Lane kickoff show tonight on In Pit Lane at 9:30 on Channel 31. We got Neil Kearney coming on the program tonight. Neil, you'd know him from lots of television over the years, The Current Affair, and going back, we mentioned during the break, sort of going back to the days he got his start with Mike Willisey back in the day, and then was a part of A Current Affair for many years, part of Melbourne Cup coverage, Bathurst coverage, a whole bunch of things over the years that he's done. Well, he's written a book on the history of the Longford circuit. He's an old Longford boy. He grew up in Longford and was telling some great yarns about when basically the World Formula One, the greatest drivers in Formula One, the legends, people like Jackie Stewart and Jim Clark, Jack Brabham, of course, they all came out of this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere in Tasmania to race around the streets. And he's written this book, Longford, the little town with a big motor, and he talks about that tonight at 9:30. But right now we're just going to have a bit of a chat about all things motorsport, and yes, it's been fairly quiet now. We're getting to that time of the year where sort of, like all the European and American series are sort of quietening down, and so even here in Australia as well. But anyway, it's good to have the crew with us again. We've got it's a compact panel tonight. We've got Pete, we've got Richard as well. G'day guys, how are you?
All right, how
Hi,
are
how are
you?
you?
Not too bad. I think there was confusion. I messed up. I'm still having trouble getting to grips with this early start thing, and I just put in out of habit. I just put in that we were starting at 9:30 again, so I think that's probably messed up a few people. It hasn't messed up Knackers. G'day Paul. How are you? He's there. Dave Howard is also joining us as well. There we've also got. Coming up, we got Box. Say g'day, Box. Good to see you again. Paul reporting that supercars on the Gold Coast got off to a bad start. Speed Cafe reporting an FMX crash at an autograph signing session which injured a spectator. So so that's not good. I'm not sure. I haven't got any details. Of that. But we'll find out something in a moment. In fact, I'm getting some stuff coming through now. I think I'm just going to have to pop off onto Facebook for a second. So I hope this isn't messing things up here. Yep, I got a message from Dave. He's up there already doing some stuff. But I haven't got the Speed Cafe thing in front of me right now. I'm just going to bring it up and have a look. Yeah, it's a stunt bike. Is the paramedics attended a supercar signing session after an incident with a stunt bike. The stunt rider landed awkwardly after hitting a barrier. Also understood a female spectator stepped back onto a bollard while a male spectator was hit by the safety barrier that the rider collided with. So that's unfortunate. That hopefully it's not too serious, but either way, these things go wrong. It's always these sort of these stunts that go wrong. I remember as a kid, I lived right next door to a drive-in theatre at Roval, and they had around this time, actually around Halloween time, they had a sort of a festival of horror movies, of the old Hammer horror movies, and they had this stunt one night, which was a very morbid. You'd never get away with it nowadays, but they had this thing where somebody basically hung himself from the screen, and this stunt went very badly wrong this night. We were all kids, and we were all there watching this guy, and the guy goes down. And it's like, that looks so realistic. And then we heard the next morning that the guy had actually, unfortunately, had died as a result of the stunt gone wrong. So that was when I was about sort of 10 years old or something, and that was the last time we saw some of those stunts. But so it's a bad start. Yeah, you get it wrong and it goes wrong badly. G'day to Mad Cow Mark. How are you, Mark? Good to catch up with you as well. I'll just I better whip up some news in the bottom so we know what to talk about. Yeah, speaking of the Gold Coast, we'll start with this S5000. Are going to actually debut their push-to-pass system. They tested it just only recently, and they're going to introduce it straight away. But I think there's only 10 cars there. I mean, Richard, I mean, you're keen on the S5000s as well,
I love
and
them.
Pete. Yeah, so what do you think? Is this something? Is this a good idea? Push to pass?
Hey, it works in NASCAR and in IndyCar. I can't see why they wouldn't give it a crack.
I suppose it works in Formula One with DRS, which is a form of push to pass. So I suppose, but I don't like it in either Formula One or I don't like it in any form of sport.
Yeah, I'm not a big rap for DRS. I must admit. As you say, that I think the thing about the push to pass in IndyCar that sort of makes it a bit more attractive, and I'm not sure how the rules are going to work out for S5000, but it is a strategic thing by the driver. I mean, they just don't have unlimited push to pass, so they've got to think about it. Sorry, they've got to think about it before they actually use it, decide when and where that they can use it. Whereas DRS, sort of, they've got it lap after lap after lap, as long as they're allowed to use it, as long as they're not under rain conditions or safety car or something, they can use it like every time that they're within a second of each other. They can actually use the DRS, and so there's no real strategy. If they had a certain thing, say, okay, you can use the DRS 5 times during the race, it might be a bit more interesting then, because then you'd have to say, well, hang on, I think I can get past the car in front of me without using DRS, so I won't use it. I'll actually work my way around the old-fashioned way. And then when you are stuck behind someone who's got a considerable speed advantage, you can whack the button and hopefully go past them. But it'll be interesting. There's only 10 cars, and the interesting thing is once again a couple of debutantes with very little. One in particular with very little racing experience. That this is what worries me with S5000. You've got sort of kids with very little experience jumping in behind the wheel, and it doesn't make for a good spectacle, and two, it wrecks cars, and it is very expensive for them. So I hope it goes well, because it'd be a hell of a baptism of fire to be running an S5000 for the first time around the streets of the Gold Coast. But it will be good to see some big open wheelers back on that track again, because it was
nothing dangerous about the Gold Coast, Brett. We've seen the Indy cars there. Was there big crashes there? The worst.
It's interesting that you have rookies at Bathurst in the supercars and other categories, and there's outcry, they cause crashes, blah, blah, blah. There's been nothing about S5000.
There was a big hue and cry at Bathurst when they piled into each other at the chase. There was a bit of talk about that.
There's been nothing about S5000, the potential for that to happen.
Well, they banned them from Bathurst. I mean, they were supposed to be running at the Bathurst International, and in the end, the Motorsport Australia said no, we don't think that's going to happen this year, because they were worried after last year with what they saw. They were hopeful that it would all go well, but there were a couple of lucky escapes, particularly through the chase on a couple of that last lap problem with, I think it was Nathan Hearn and Lewis Leeds. Could have ended up very, very nasty indeed. So I think they're I agree with what Paul's saying here. S5000s are not suitable for newbies, and certainly not at a street track. It's really strange. I mean, they wouldn't let Nathan Hearn race a supercar, but you can get a kid coming straight out of karts jumping into an S5000, and that's crazy. That's they're serious. They still are, even though they've taken a bit of power off and all the rest, and they don't have all of the downforce that some people would like, including me. They're still seriously fast cars, and they're very powerful, and they're a handful, and even experienced. When you get someone like Rubens Barrichello telling you, wow, that they are a real handful, they're probably not suitable for suitable, because as SB's saying, they're especially on the hard compound Hoosiers, which I think they're going to change next year. And I would hope so. It's great that they've got long-lasting tyres, but I don't think it adds anything to the.
They're trying a couple of new compounds at the event that's coming up at Bathurst.
Yeah, they tried a couple at the test at the Bend too, so they're certainly looking. They've got to find I suppose they've got to find the compromise between having a tyre which is going to, last and be affordable and, not fall apart completely. But at the moment, there's no sort of, there's nothing to be gained by having a good tyre strategy and, looking after your tyres and deciding when and when to use them or not, because the things they're like concrete. I mean, they get to the end of the race and they're lapping their fastest laps sort of on the last 2 or 3 laps of the race. So there's nothing wrong with the tyres there, and then they're taking them out and they're sort of running them in another race. They're good value. They're good value for money, but and I'm not one that thinks that all that sliding around necessarily makes for good racing. It's like, yes, it makes for some good photos, but I don't think it necessarily makes for good racing.
When they have their 8-10 laps, it's like a perfect storm for them in a good way, like to quote a Halloween quote, perfect potion, because the fuel's come down, the tyres are probably warmed up as best they're going to be and rub it in. The tracks, they're getting used to it. The drivers are starting to work out their braking points a whole lot. I mean, may have had laps in and over the weekend previously, but it's perfect. So of course they're going to get the most out of it. The longer they run them, the better they're going to get out of the car. So, and because remember, this category is only a couple of years old, and not everyone's been in every single event with them either.
No, that's it. I mean, it was really sort of messed around by the whole COVID thing, as was so much. But they were just about to launch, and it was all looking good, and then suddenly, COVID hit, and that obviously caused a problem. And they're running. This is the first round of the Tasman series, and it's a Tasman series that doesn't include any races across the Tasman. I think at this stage it's still only a two-round series, as it were. I was told that they were looking for a third round and that there were some feelers out for them to possibly run at Island Magic, but it would appear that hasn't come off, because I mean Island Magic is absolutely packed to the corners already. So I don't think there was time for it to run the number of races and laps the S5000 wanted as well. So. Yeah, I'm not sure what they're going to do about that. I don't think they should be running for the Tasman series when they're not running over the Tasman. And it's for two. If it was only for 2 rounds, if they had one race in, this weekend and one here and then one race in New Zealand, I can understand that. But they haven't even done that. It's just 2 races here in Australia. So
if they added a race down in basketball or Longford, that'd count as an extra Tasman race, wouldn't it? Because it's Tasmania. So,
well,
you could get away with that, couldn't you?
Quite possibly. The Tasmania.
Yeah, exactly.
Paul saying cut
the Bass Strait Cup. The Bass Strait Cup. There you go.
Yeah, Paul saying cut holes in the floor, Flintstone size. That'd be the push to pass. That'd be a real push to pass. Seeing they run Bedrock special tyres, yeah, they are a bit like that.
Well,
are they?
I know, Knackers, thanks for calling. I missed the roll call. I was stuck in traffic. I do apologise, everyone. But they're going to add a few different things to it. They're going to change with the aerodynamics a little bit. I don't know if you just mentioned already. The push to pass is going to come in the S5000. Yep. As I said, you said they've tested tyres at the Bend, and they're talking of checking out some new rubber at the International as well too, which is good. So maybe they'll invigorate it a bit.
I haven't had time to upload the photos. Today they announced they showed the testing of the new Super Formula car, that the chassis and bodywork that'll be running in Japan next year. And as soon as I saw it, I thought, oh, gee, I'd love to see S5000 looking like that. They look a really nice car. They look very mean indeed, those Super Formula cars. And the new one looks very sleek. So, but they're a good-looking car. Unfortunately, the racing hasn't been what we were hoping, and it hasn't attracted the quality of drivers and the number of teams that we liked. I mean, perhaps if there was 20 drivers within sort of, one or 2 seconds of each other, we'd be saying something different. But as it is at the moment, you've got, like the people like Joey Mawson and Nathan Hearn and those people up the front who are having good races between themselves. And then after about you get, past 6th place, the talent sort of starts dropping off pretty quickly. And you get people running around in the back, really struggling, and it looks like they're struggling. And when there's only 8 to 10 cars out there, you notice them. You can't hide them.
Probably other than another bit of form. What do you call Tim Macro and John Martin, the only two that are quite consistently able to keep up with them if they on any given weekend, if they all got some time in the cockpit. So anyway, is that a E-Series Peter Jackson up on your wall there, Richard?
It is, yes.
Oh,
that was
yellow and blue.
There for a while.
Yeah, I got that. That was a poster given out at the track on the day. I don't know if I got it signed. I'll have to have a look at it. I've forgotten. I've got a whole box full of them. Eventually, they'll all get framed up.
Anyway, they've all been living in the past this week with the Gold Coast on anyway too.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's so we get that on the weekend. So that'll be something. To watch, and I'm not sure what the weather will be like. There was some very strange. Richard Crail put out a photo this afternoon. I don't know if you saw it. If you're a friend of Richard's on Facebook or anywhere, but he put out a shot from the beach at Surfers Paradise. The most bizarre sort of cloud formation that you've ever seen. It was like, I don't know how it occurred. I've never seen anything like it. Was literally like it was like two photos spliced together, and one was daytime and one was nighttime. But it was taken at the same time. It was really strange.
It wasn't like Donald Trump in your toaster on your toast, was it? On your bread? Is there anything like that? Nothing like that. Yeah.
Well, it could be. Speaking of which, last week, Dave Howard, yes, I said on the show and I said online, congratulations to the Australian production cars for getting on the track at the bend. It were terrible conditions, and I understand the conditions were absolutely terrible, and there's a big difference between running production cars and running Porsches and those sort of GT cars out there. But really, I mean, they got out and they did a great job. It wasn't chaos. It was a good race. Some of the smaller cars, the Mazda 3 and the like, had was very competitive in amongst the bigger cars, and they put on a show, and they put on a great show. Not that there was anyone there to see it. I mean, the weather was so bad on the weekend, and I think basically by sort of halfway through Sunday morning, the small crowd that was there turned around and packed up and went home. But it was on the television, and it did make for some good entertainment, I think.
Tell me what state hasn't got bad weather on everywhere at the moment and cancelling events left, right, and centre. Everyone's struggling. Whether you're Queensland, New South Wales, Victoria, South Australia, Tassie, everywhere's got bad. I think WA is about the only place that's probably safe at the moment again.
Pete, you were saying?
Brisbane is meant to be sunny tomorrow, 25.
Oh, that'll be good. I believe that it has actually stopped raining in Sydney, because I heard someone on the radio who was up there for the match which is on now, for the World Cup match, and they said it got to about 28 in Sydney today, and it was sunny, and they were down the beach, and they said the people in Sydney he said it's like they've just come out of the Second World War, and they've just emerged from the bunkers, because they've not had sort of it's just rained and rained and rained and we're not getting a break. Pete and I were saying before you guys got here that if you have a look at the forecast for next week, it's basically rain every day. There's one day when I think it gets to about 19, but the day after Cup Day, Wednesday next week, is going to be about 14. So Cup week, and I think Cup Day is going to be 16 and rain, and it's awful. The weather is just terrible.
Had a mate who's a school teacher who frequented between Sydney and Canberra a couple of times this week, and said all it did was just bash down rain on his travelling all in his car between Canberra and Sydney. He just said they just did not cop a break. So it doesn't matter where you are in Australia, well, other than some parts, but most of the eastern seaboard right across, everyone's copping a bashing. I mean, just this afternoon, driving home from work, raining. Coming home just a minute ago, raining. Everywhere, rain. We could have used it bloody 10, 15 years ago, but no.
I'm so optimistic that it's going to rain on Monday. I've even taken the covers off the wet weather tyres and just put them into the car.
So you're running the XL at Sandown. Tampa Motorsport have got it's 3 days, 3 days of racing at Sandown.
That's correct.
There. So go through that, Richard. You before we started, you did say what was coming up, but there's 3 days of racing.
Yeah, they've got a sprint, then they've got what they call a mini enduro, and then another sprint. I'm doing one on Monday to start getting ready for the Challenge Bathurst. And then the Alpha Club are running on the following weekend, are running their own sprint, and I might have a crack at that. I'm trying to dial myself in 12 months out of the saddle. Bathurst is still pretty demanding, even if it's just a regularity.
And how long
could be raining.
How long is the mini enduro, Richard?
The mini enduro runs all day. Sorry?
Mini enduro? How long is the mini enduro?
It's a weird format. It's more sounds like 24 hours of lemons, really. The sub-regs are sort of, bring what you brung, get your mates together, but you better wear long sleeves and shoes.
And steel cap shoes, yeah. High vis.
Yeah. Yes. We did a story on the first one on the first episode of this season. I had an interview with Adam Ronk and also with Michael Hopp. Michael was running one of the Suzuki there, and it was a very, very small field for the first one, but it has been very popular. The format's been hugely popular up in Queensland, where this started. So I don't know how many they've got for this week, but it was a good day out. I mean, there was that's where I met up with young Abby Wingett, who we had on our show last week. That's where, because she was part of that. She was part of the sprint. So they had the endurance race on the Saturday, and then the sprint on the Sunday, and that was it. So I went on the Saturday for the endurance race because I thought it'd make a good story, and turned up and the place looked empty, and I thought, I've come on the wrong day, and I sort of had, because there was only about 8 cars in the endurance race. But the sprint day on the next day, the sprint day was fantastic, and there were so many unusual cars. That's where we caught up with Ben Grice in the Trans Am, because we're walking around and in amongst all of these hotted up road cars and time attack cars and all sorts of things, and lots of XLs and all the rest of it, is this bloody great Mustang Trans Am car, TA2 car sitting there, and he was running that, and he was running it at very low revs, because of course it's not one of the open, one of the 95 decibel days. It's sort of more around 75. So he was just cruising around very quietly, and but getting laps in and
lawnmower noise levels. Mm.
Yeah, pretty much. I think an XL passes that, but keep the fingers crossed.
Hey, just Formula One tickets just going past about Hamilton. Not that. Did they manage to fire up the Benetton over at the Bend last weekend? I was obviously working most of the weekend. I know they were tinkering with it.
I didn't see it. Somebody might know. I didn't see. The only thing I saw going around was the S5000, and it went around for lap after lap after lap after lap, all by itself. It was painful.
That wasn't the S5000. That was an S5000 in disguise, looking like the course car, which was just clearing all the water off the track. So yeah.
This was when it was dry, and it was like I turned on, and it was like this is fine. And the poor commentators were struggling like nobody's business. Talking about padding, because it was like, and here's one car, and so they had that out there. There was another car coming out, and I think they were talking about the F1 car getting out there, the Benetton, and doing some laps. But I didn't see it. I just know that I watched a couple of laps, and I thought, okay, they'll stop it now, and they kept the lap. So I came in, I did some stuff here, did some other stuff, walked back. They were still.
Yeah, remember that coffee shop we went to last week? Wasn't that some wonderful little coffee? And they did that little thing in the latte for me as well. That's how bad they were padding. Yeah, they were just talking about anything. Like, look, there's a guy I haven't seen in 10 years. I can't remember his name. Anyway, yeah.
Did you actually catch the commentary from the historics at Winton? First, on the Saturday, they were running audio described, and I couldn't watch the racing. It was so funny to see someone trying to do teletext. under a couple of commentators. It was hilarious. It was.
Oh, look, I mean, that's...
They were doing
Yeah.
they were doing the audio assist
I've seen that before.
underneath. Oh,
It was,
and of course it was, and yeah, it's just like on YouTube where they put the audio assist on, where it doesn't actually match up to exactly the words that they're saying.
Well, that's it. It's all AI, so it's all artificial intelligence stuff. It's all automatic.
Yeah.
I mean, I could flick it on here, and I mean, on the YouTube channel, you just set it up and say, do you want to run? I always turn it off because like it never gets anything right. Particularly, it has big trouble with Australian accent, and it also has big trouble with anything that involves sort of foreign drivers or cars or place names or anything. It has massive problems with that as well. So you see it all the time. Sort of, you go to a lot of pubs will sort of put it on because they want to turn the sound down, so they'll have that on the television, and you'll have a look at it, and it'll make no sense at all. But
I think the most famous one's been the Alinta ad with the cricketers in the last 12 months. Remember the Alinta Energy, and they walked in there, and I think it was Pat Cummings says, "Turn heaters on," and it starts raining, and then they. The fire extinguisher. Yeah, there was the Alinta Energy ad for the cricketers. Remember, if you see it,
actually, if on YouTube, have a look at. I think it's called. It's Scottish voice recognition in elevator or something. It is absolutely hilarious. It's like, just say the floor that you want to go to. Hey, you want to go to number 25? Please say the floor. I told you number 25. Paul saying that humans have trouble understanding me. So yes.
Hey, I'll add to that, Knackers. It's try and keep up with him. We're at the track sometimes. He tells me I disappear sometimes, but I'm usually just following the lead. I try and find out where he's gone. They went, look at it, trudge. Off he goes. Like, he's like Richard as well, though, too, at the track. He's like,
turn around, he's gone.
Yeah, he's got that.
I like to keep moving. It's harder to hit a moving target.
Well, that's true. You can't get in the crosshairs then, can you?
Yeah. So anyway, no. According to David, it didn't run at the bend, and SB saying that they did fire it up on Saturday, but it didn't get out for a run. So that's unfortunate. Sitting at the bottom there, our championship leader Jimmy Bizniak in Formula Ford is not going to contest this week's final round at Sydney Motorsport Park as part of the New South Wales State Series because he's decided that rather than sort of win the Australian Formula Ford Championship, he's going over to the UK to do a test drive of a Formula 4 car, and it's been sort of greeted with mixed emotions from a couple of people, saying that like he's been racing all year. He's currently leading by 11 points from a couple of people, including us, Valentino Astuti, who was our guest on the opening show on In Pit Lane this year. And, the Formula Ford guys have put the best spin on it and sort of said, oh, well, we wish him luck and we can understand, he's got this opportunity. But some people have also said, well, it shows how much they sort of consider this and how important they consider this championship, that they'll just sort of literally walk away from a championship on the basis of getting one test drive in a Formula 4 at Brands Hatch or somewhere.
You've got to look at the bigger picture. Come on,
Yeah,
fair. Who would, if put themselves in anyone's shoes at that young age or where you are, would you pass up the opportunity? No, nobody would. Come on, be realistic. So
I agree. Doc, you're right.
No, you put yourself in their shoes for a second. You've got the same sort of pedigree. You've had the same sort of experience races. And yes, there is a championship, but it's not like in 10 years or 15 years and you're still running around for a bit of fun and just for kicks and giggles. You could say, hey, I have the championship in the bag, but I had the opportunity to go overseas and just race something different, and you never know where it might lead to. So what's wrong with that? I mean, put it on.
I suppose it depends in terms of, like, he's only young, and there's no doubt that he's obviously paying. I imagine he's paying for or his family are paying for the test drive, and so there'd be opportunities to do that again early next year, you'd imagine. So. Why is it so important to get to this particular test drive rather than sort of leave it until sort of early next year or something, or leave it to later this year, rather than sort of dive across right now and basically walk away. I mean, he might be lucky. He might hang on. Somebody might come up and. The other guys mightn't get enough points to get past him, so he still might get the championship anyway. He's not out of contention totally.
Let's just say we'll go back 30 years ago, and when Lounsey and Bridie both went across to the US and did some Indy Lights testing, it had interrupted their Australian Touring Car Series, and it meant the championship on the line. I'd put my house on it. They'd still go across and have done those Indy Lights tests for a bit, because experience, and they would have given up a championship for the year. What does it put it in the big picture of life? 20, 30 years in the track, everyone's like, "Oh, okay, Bridie missed out on his championship, but he got the test at Indy Lights." No, they didn't go all the way to Formula One. But hell, what an experience it was. So you don't pass up on anything like that. So I'll just throw it out there for that sort of thing. You don't. You just take the opportunities when you can. Even if nothing comes out of it, it's fun.
But anyway, that's happening. That's happening this weekend.
Have anyone heard how Aaron Cameron's going? I haven't caught up this week on Aaron.
I haven't caught up. He's been putting his adventures up on Speed Cafe. He's been writing a regular column for them. Now, this is the World Motorsport Games, the FIA World Motorsport Games, which are a really bizarre thing. The thing that I didn't know today is that all of the events from the World Motorsport today are on 7+. They're streaming that. In fact, they're probably streaming some of it now. Don't switch off immediately, but afterwards, okay, by all means. But yeah, they are streaming it. They've got a dedicated channel on 7+, which is running all of the stuff from the FIA Motorsport Games. But I'm not sure how it all works, because if you have a look at, if they're saying that they want it to be sort of the Olympics of motorsport. Well, if it was the Olympics of motorsport, Lewis Hamilton would be representing England, and Max Verstappen would be running for the Netherlands, and Chaz Mostert would be for Australia, Shane Van Gisbergen would be over there for the Kiwis, along with Scotty McLaughlin or something. It's
Australian.
Shane and
we claim they're very successful.
Well, we do, but they're not keen. I know in particular that Shane gets very upset when somebody introduced him. I think at Le Mans, somebody said to here he is, Australian driver, and he just turned around and walked off. And he said, well, at least get your country. You can't even get my country right. Well,
Just say during the pandemic, when he was able to come back from New Zealand, said, "Oh, is it good to be home?" And he said, first of all, Australia is not home, New Zealand is.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. And speaking of which, I'm pretty sure he's not watching, but welcome. Well, we won't say welcome home, but it's your second home. Welcome back to Scotty McLaughlin, who arrived back in Australia, I think, yesterday for the first time in a couple of years. He's probably up in Queensland at his old stomping ground up there. Maybe, I'm not sure whether he's. I think he might be actually doing some television stuff this weekend on the Gold Coast for Foxtel or Seven or somebody. But I think he's up there at the moment. So he's arrived back in Australia. So good on you, Scott. Welcome back.
Just checked what you were saying about the 7+. All they've got uploaded so far is the opening ceremony for an hour and 26 minutes, which does include 463 drivers. I forgot how many there was, from 72 nations. So hopefully that those streaming of those events come to fruition.
I'd like to find out how they choose, because they've got a Formula 4 component, and the young guy who's running Formula 4 for Australia is basically coming. I think he's got very limited Formula 4 experience. He did very well in the Ferrari Academy tryouts, and so I think as a result of that he's got over there. But if they were taking it seriously, you'd look at somebody like Hugh Barter, who's pretty much dominated didn't win it because of the point system, but pretty much dominated the French season. Was certainly probably would have won if he'd have got all the points that he was entitled to. He's currently running second in the Spanish series as well. So you would think that somebody like him, he would be an ideal opportunity to represent Australia in Formula 4, but he's not there. We've got the Groves. Brenton and Tony are running in the the Porsche in the GT3. So there's a GT3 race. This is all run by Stefan Rattel, so it's all run under SRO things. So so apart from being on 7 Plus, it'll also be on GT World as well. So pretty much everything that you want to see. There's karts involved. There's E Series, there's sim racing. There's a whole bunch of stuff. So it's an interesting concept. It'll be interesting to see how it goes.
But it's a good working holiday for some people as well, though. Too. A bit of time to kill.
Yeah, it's been saying bring back A1 Grand Prix. I liked A1 Grand Prix.
Yes.
I did as well.
Great minds think
I
alike.
liked it, but it's. I mean, we spoke to Mick about it. Remember when we got a break with COVID and we went over to saw Mick at one stage. Remember too?
Yeah, Mick Webb. Yeah, Mick was involved in Team Australia.
Mick was CEO of Team Australia. He was head honcho. And
Richard and I went up there. We went up to Sydney Motorsport Park for it. There. So when it was on, and it was a really good
Great weekend.
Yeah, it was a great weekend. It was fun. The crowd was pretty disappointed. The interesting thing about the crowd was there weren't many people there, but a lot of the people who were there were not traditional motorsport fans. I mean, I was talking to there was a whole bunch of people from Lebanon because there was a Lebanese team there, and there was a whole bunch of Lebanese expats coming out and saying, well, we're here to support our country. We don't know anything about car racing, but go Team Lebanon. So they were starting to get a bit of momentum, and then a whole bunch of sort of dodgy financial deals sort of happened, and some of the money that should have been there disappeared. Not particularly unlike a series that might have had some problems overseas this year involving young women. So
it's just like when people go to tennis. Well, they don't go to watch the tennis; they go to support Kazakhstan and drink lots of beverages. And who are you supporting? I don't know. The guy out there that was wearing that's got the flag on from our country. So that they do it at the tennis, exactly the same thing. The other thing was though too was the expectation of the A1 Grand Prix stuff is it was born out of the shadows of the IndyCar, and everyone was expectation was it's going to be the next big thing, and unfortunately it just disappointed people because it was an IndyCar as well too. So that was. I suppose that's where everyone fell away a little bit. It wasn't just...
Well, unfortunately, they never got to race on the Gold Coast because that was where they were coming back to Australia when IndyCar pulled out of the Gold Coast to A1 Grand Prix. And I've got a T-shirt. I've got the T-shirt, like the Indy, like Gold Coast A1 Grand Prix T-shirt that actually never happened. I picked that up at an op shop at one stage. They must have, sort of donated them to the salvos or something, because I walked into an op shop one day and there's a whole rack of A1 Grand Prix Indy, like a Gold Coast T-shirt. So yes,
I can vouch for your collection of stuff. I went over to Brett's last weekend and we dived into his garage to the bottomless pit, to the black hole. I think Star Trek's had better expeditions than we did. But anyway, we got through 4 boxes of these 20 boxes of memorabilia. So it's the stuff that you wouldn't believe. And all I did was the stuff I knew what it was. I just look at it and know what it is. Anything I didn't know what it was, Brett, you have a look at this. And Brett be like this. Oh, I remember this. And he'd just be looking, oh, yeah, like that. And he'd go off on his little tangent for about a minute or two. And I'd just tap in the ear because I'm trying to concentrate on actually get through some stuff. And then it's like, here's the next one, Brett. You check that out. I'll keep going through this stuff, the regulars and stuff like that. We found some great little ornaments and trinkets and memorabilia and photos and little bits and pieces that Brett's collected. Oh, and he's got a lanyard collection now. We've got a nice shelf in his garage.
Oh, I've got that's not the start. I got lanyards. I got hundreds. Everybody who's been who's been a part of it.
We've got a garage lanyard collection now.
There's now with the one that's in there. I'm just looking across now. I've got the lanyard. I've got a lanyard from. I've got from. Chinese Touring Car Championship that was from Ordos, and I've got Dijon and Le Mans, and I've got a few lanyards there. I've got another Le Mans lanyard up there, so I've got lanyards all over the bloody joint.
That's all right. We've got a garage collection going now.
Well, the good thing is, I mean, what we were doing and going through them was finding this on them, and we're passing them off to Virtual R, to Roy at Online Invent, and he's been dubbing them down and putting them on his Motorsport Archive channel. And so, if you want to have
as well too.
Yeah, I'm really surprised at how well a lot of that stuff has come up. I mean, and he put up the other day I think it was the '96 or it might have been the '95 drag racing nationals from Calder Park. He's put up a few sports sedan races, and we found, as you said, Doc, we've got like basically a box and a half of stuff for him to go through as well. So no shortage of stuff for Roy to play with over once we get it to him, and that's only the beginnings. That's just the VHS and Betacam stuff that's in the garage, because there's four very big boxes of mini DV tapes there, and there's literally thousands of those.
Roy will be like the Griswolds on the Christmas special, up in the attic there, wearing his dressing gown and his pink shower cap, and sitting there with the camera, with the projector on the wall there, looking at old nostalgic tapes of races. Yeah. So yeah, thanks Roy. If you sometimes you're listening on these nights, but he's got lots and lots of stuff to sit up there in the snow, because we'll probably have snow next. So
well, Brett, I'll make a motor racing man cave in my new shed. So you're
going to make a white wall for us with the projector
if you need it. I've got a projector.
Well, Roy's converting it all at the moment. We are able to,
What about a big video screen?
Well, that's what I'm saying. If you've got the projector, is it USB compatible? Because you just
I'll buy one.
Oh, yeah, there. I know. Yeah,
perhaps I'll buy two, just one for each of you. One can watch the left hand side. One can watch the right hand side.
Oh, I've got to buy more scotch for us. That's all right. Another decanter.
Don't need to. There's more. I found a bottle in one of the houses.
Can you project that into your yard? Because I think you have steps in your house.
Yeah, I think it'll be. It's just as hard for us to get to his house, up to his house, as it would be for you, Pete. I mean, if we can make it, we'll get you up. We'll get you up there somehow. I mean, don't worry. If we've got to get a helicopter in, we'll fly you in. Don't worry about it. We'll get you there.
Pete, there's drones everywhere. We'll just Uber Eats you. Well, that's right. We'll put Peter on an Uber Eats delivery. Get an Uber Eats. Just put one of those Uber drones on each corner of him. Pick him up and just rob him into the.
It'd make a great sight, wouldn't it? I mean, you'd have sort of the ride of the Valkyries playing, and it's like, what the hell's that? And look up, and here's slung underneath this massive drone is Pete in his chair, so you're dun 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 dun. Cruising in
with his Uber Eats bag. He's got dinner all ready for all of us.
Yeah, just coming in and saying, "Open the bottles, boy! I brought the food.
I've got the food. Where's mine? Pour me a glass."
Yeah, so
we've got room in the car park for the.
Anyway, let's back to reality before we wrap up. As I said, 9:30 on Channel 31, also on the YouTube channel. Have a look for the discussion with Neil Kearney on Longford. Great raconteur, great stories, and we caught up with Neil. That was fabulous on Tuesday night when we recorded that.
I hate to jump the gun, but because we can reminisce a bit more but it's all about get the book. It's reasonably priced. I think around $65. Was it 65, Brett?
Yeah, it was. I think a little bit less than that actually. It was, but it was it was certainly very affordable, and it goes right back. Some amazing, beautifully put together book.
I got to the prop. Yeah, I got to hold the prop. It was wonderfully put together, as you said, Brett. 186 illustrations as well too. And he said that was one of the hardest parts, was trying to get all those pictures over the last 2 years, sourcing them all. So he's very grateful to all the people that contributed to it.
And they're very good quality. Most of them. Well, we had them on. If you watch tonight, you'll see them. We put a pile, and Neil was good enough to send us a whole pile of those photos, and we ran them behind us on the monitors as part of the backdrop. So you'll see some of those photos up behind us, and you can see them in the book, and they're very good quality. Lots of great stories, because Neil grew up in Longford. He was a kid in Longford, went to school, and he was telling us about sort of going down the pub and meeting up with.
He was a paper boy. Remember, he was
paper boy, selling the paper. So, but anyway, watch tonight, and you'll hear all those stories, because they're fabulous, fabulous stuff.
And you did warn me, Brett, was that we won't have to do much question asking. He'll just take it and run. So we could have talked for another hour or two easy, because the book is also, and without giving away too many secrets, it's in chronological order through the years, where he talks about each year and the Grand Prix and the contributions that from his own memory and other people that have helped him.
And I didn't realise that Longford went on for such a long period of time, and I also was unaware that that it started as a bike event, that it was a motorcycle meeting. But so he's got all of those details and all of the press clippings from the time, and the stories that he remembers, the stories that his family remembers, and other people around the town. It's a great read. It's a terrific book. So pick it up. Go to his website. The details are there tonight.
I did a little bit of quick research about it, which we didn't get a chance to ask him all the questions on when we were taping the show. And he had a good friend he grew up with at the same age, he went to school with. And as it turned out, he actually, I can't remember his name right now, but his dad ended up playing for Carlton, I think, at the VFL level, as it was known now, the modern day version of AFL. And the mate he went to school with, and unfortunately he's passed away now, went on to not just be a great basketballer, but represented Australia, and also went to the Olympics as well too. So there's some great side stories as well to it, not just on motorsport. So check that out as well.
Yeah, so check it out tonight. Coming up this weekend as well, the Australian Supercross Championships at Adelaide Showgrounds, live on their site. That'll be interesting. Live on their site on Facebook. So have a look at that. We saw we unfortunately didn't get to the Marvel Stadium on Friday morning at 7 a.m. I get up at around, I was up at about sort of 8 o'clock, 8:30, and I just came there, and it's like, media, here's your media invite. Come around today and talk to all the riders, and get some footage and talk to Tony Cochran. There'll be a media conference and all the rest of it. And by the time we sort of found out that it was way too late to organise anything, so we didn't get out there. But they did send us some stuff. It looked like that it was. Looked like it was a pretty successful meeting, and it's only the start of these things. I mean, Tony Cochran clearly sort of talking it up in the press conference. I mean, we run a little bit. You'll see.
There.
He was there.
Was there. Yes,
he was there. So perhaps you can tell us if you thought it was successful. But it certainly was presented well. It looked good, as you would imagine with anything that Cochran's involved with. He knows the importance of putting on a show. So I think that'll be interesting, because he was saying next year will be a full sort of World Series. It was only sort of they tried out in Cardiff and in Melbourne this year, and next year they'll be running it in a whole bunch of different countries around the world. But it seemed to go pretty well. Naka's saying driving out, it was interesting with the storm going and the flooding, but that would have kept the crowds down as well on both nights as well. The fact that outside it was such horrible weather, but it looked like a really good. I watched a little bit of it on Channel 7, and then I got the stuff that you'll see tonight on the news, which they sent us. They sent us a VNR with some of the action.
Speaking of, before we move on to any other ones, so it's looking 50-50 for Calder Park tomorrow night.
No, it's cancelled.
So last post I said it was 50-50. Now it's cancelled.
No, definitely cancelled. They pulled the plug on that. So fast road I think it's now the third week in a row. And if you have a look at the forecast again for Friday next week, the forecast is rain again, so they're just not having a good run at the moment. I think they're going to try and get something at Heathcote Park, but Heathcote Park was, it was literally underwater for a lot of the time over the past few days.
They got half the weekend out of it last week.
Paul saying that's interesting. Paul saying the track, he thought that the track was better than the Ausex one which we went to, and that was a good track, and so that's interesting.
Even better. Yeah.
We've also got quoted 50,000 crowd over both nights, and wouldn't surprise me if it was something like that, because it looked about sort of like a half full, and that place when it's full will hold just on 50,000, so just over 50,000. So I would imagine for the 2 nights. So I think under the circumstances they'd be very, very happy with that.
Well, the good thing, I hate to interlude on that one, but I've seen there's a lot of football at the Marvel, and you can sit in level 2 or level 3, and there's no real bad seats. So considering the fact that those motorbikes, cross bikes, are going 50 feet in the air, you could be on level 3 and they're still going above your head. So, that's the great part about Marvel Stadium when you're watching any event whatsoever. There's no real bad seats. You always get a good view of everything that's going on.
Yeah. So anyway, that will be. I'm sure it'll be back next year. Seemed to go very well. That's right. Yeah. Tony Stewart, just saw down the bottom. Tony Stewart, that NASCAR and sprint car sort of superstar, making his NHRA drag racing debut in a top alcohol dragster this weekend. Tony has got involved in drag racing. Well, he got involved with one of the with the drag racing driver basically, and has fallen in love with her, and also fallen in love with the sport. And so he's driving a car this weekend. So it'll be interesting to see there. He'll bring a lot of attention to that round. So we'll have news from that meeting on next week's. No, actually we won't, because next week's show, of course, speaking of Tasmania, is the Baskerville Historics. And I'm that's what I'm going to be doing over the next 3 days, is cutting all of that together. But we got some really good stuff there, so that'll be So
any behind the
good.
scenes stuff, or all on track? What sort of concept are you going to go there, Brett?
No, we didn't get as much, unfortunately, because of the weather. We had one of the cameras was destroyed by our main camera, the large one got totally messed up by the weather, unfortunately. So pretty much everything after about lunchtime on Saturday, everything we shot on that was unusable. So we didn't get as much on-track stuff as I would have liked, but we do have some fabulous interviews. We've got, as I said, on the show for this week, Garth Winston, Johnny Walker, Charlie O'Brien. We've got some people behind the organising committee telling us about how they saved the track, the history of Baskerville. Some really good footage. We do have some interesting cars to look at too. There's quite a few fascinating cars. That was the thing about it. There were so many cars down there that you just don't see on the mainland, and it was really good. There were a couple of cars, unfortunately, I wanted to do a story on. One in particular, a Tirana Sports sedan, which looked wonderful, but the driver just wasn't interested. We said, I'd like to do a story. No, I'm not talking to. No, piss off, mate. I'm not interested. So
what was that the Rana that you were live streaming on the last day? Jason was following the car and you were chatting, and it was
that was
And
the black
gave you some idea as well though too of the levels of the track as well though too. So you could stand up where Jason and you were at that stage, and you can basically look all the way around the track. But fabulous! So natural amphitheatre. You park on the side. Yeah. You look. The whole track's out in front of you. You can see the whole track. It's got very good elevation. The elevation you were
changes.
Saying too. Yeah.
Terrific. Absolutely terrific circuit. Kevin Bartlett, as you hear in the interview, Kevin Bartlett was described as a mini Mount Panorama, and it is very similar in the fact that you don't realise just how big the elevation changes are until you're there and have a look at the thing. And there's on-camera camber corners and off-camber corners and all sorts of things. Real challenging track, and just a fabulous meeting to go to. Everybody who went along. I saw Mark Goldsmith before was with us, and he was down there with his Elfin, and he had a good time. I think everybody who went along will tell you that they just had a fabulous time, and it really is one to put on the bucket list. If you haven't raced there, get on down there, at least so you can say once in your life. Unfortunately, it is very expensive to go down. That's what we were talking about, the fact that to get a car down there, just the transport there and back costs close to $5,000 return. So really expensive.
You convinced me to go down there until you just said that.
Well, as they pointed out, if you can drive the car on And that's what some people were doing. If they had road, you could drive the car on, and you could go down with the car with normal car rates. The moment you take a trailer or a truck on there, the rates just go through the roof.
Just check what TT lines are charging
It's
down
probably-
Geelong now.
It's probably more of a hassle now that the ship is in Geelong.
That's what I said.
Well,
TT
that's
They
it.
own. Yeah. They also got a big. Don't look at the news about TT Lines though, because they got a massive fine today. They got slapped with a few.
They needed more than a massive fine for that. That was absolutely disgusting. But anyway,
exactly. You saw what I was talking about. Yeah.
Hey, listen. Before we go quickly, because we'll give people a chance to have a look at the stuff with Neil Kearney tonight, rather than listen to us gas bag on. Let's talk about quickly MotoGP. It will go down to the wire, but. You would think that Bagnaia has pretty much got it wrapped up, but not totally. If he's got to finish, and he's got to finish in a points paying position, otherwise he can be overtaken by Quartararo. So it was a good race, and got a bit nervous for Paco in the over the last few laps, because his teammate for next year.
Unofficial team orders, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't really happening. Wasn't really happening much, was it?
So obviously, Thriller Miller didn't qualify as good as he hoped as well too. He was, I think, he was sitting on the third or the fourth row from the start, and just ended up. I think he finished seventh, so he did quite a good finish. At least he did.
Yeah, he dropped at the end of the first lap. He had a bad first lap. He was back at 21st when he came over the line the first time, and then eventually recovered to be seventh and really challenging for sixth place as well. So he had a really good run.
He was around Mark Marquez. He just slipped in just before in the last lap or two as well too. But anyway, getting back to the elephant in the room. So Pecco will finish it. He will win the championship. Obviously, his teammate Bastianini. He was his wingman, so to speak. I think he knew in the last 2 or 3 laps that not to overtake him, leave him in first place, and if he gets any challenge, put the shoulders out as wide as possible to get the factory team across the line in first place. What I think, though, is going to be the question is, and everyone's having a rant about, is Quartararo's enemy is himself, because he seems to get into these psychological downtrodden, not say depression, but self-belief timelines, and he just drops his bundle. He doesn't believe in himself, and just unfortunately for him, he just can't fight those demons, and he can't convert it on track. Now, look, there could be some mechanical, there could be some problems as well with the team, the bike, the certain tracks they go to, but he's not finishing anywhere near in the top 10, which he and the bike are capable of doing. So, look, if Quartararo can actually then next year have a good pre-season and fight up, and Yamaha give him a good set of 2 wheels underneath him, Mark Marquez is going to be back on fire. He seems to have been re-energized, and he's happy, and he got a few tips off Casey when he was in Australia a couple of weeks ago as well, though, too. So it's unfortunately the big thing is, though, is if you do get time to watch MotoGP in the next couple of weeks, please watch the Suzukis. Unfortunately, Suzuki's going to bow out at the end of this year, so enjoy the Blue Thunders while they're running around.
Yeah, also we can see there Falcon DJ17's RX-8 drive, the RX-8 Cup. The RX-8 Cup is coming back down to Victoria as well for a meeting at Phillip Island in early December. I'll be down there. I'm going to be filming that on behalf of the RX-8 Cup people. Just basically filming. We're not doing anything for specifically for the show. We're going to be just providing the footage for them to take away. And young Tom, who's leading the championship, he dominated down at Phillip Island last time. Very, very handy steerer, and also helps that he has a background and an interest in film and television production as well. So I can just hand all of the raw footage to him and say, knock yourself out, Tom, and he can.
Good friends of the show, very good.
He can put it there. Yeah, he's the terrific guys to deal with.
And they're big fans of the show from up in
Sydney.
Yeah,
so Rick and Tom.
Why can't they want in pit lane in Sydney, which unfortunately is not going to happen at the moment.
Yeah, they did. It was funny, as I was saying at the start of the year. I mean, we're sort of snubbed in Victoria now, but we've got a couple of categories up in Sydney saying, "Gee, we wish you guys had come up to. Wish you guys had come up." I suppose the other side of the fence always looks better, but it was like, Okay, guys, we'll see you next week. Tune on to Channel 31, and we'll see you next week. Until then, bye for now, everyone.
See
Have
ya.
a great weekend.